Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive. This is episode 21. Can you believe that? And it's been quite the hyperactive little week here, which I'm very glad to report to you about. First off, your comments are welcome. Please comment here on the blog, which is cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. Or if you still feel good about it, go to our group on Ravelry and introduce yourself in the introductions and comment there. I will try to get back to all the comments. Please, I beg of you, stop trying to add yourself to my Instagram account. I can't let you do it because I'm getting all sorts of weird robo people trying to add themselves, and I'm not enjoying it much, let me tell you. So please don't do it. If you'd like to communicate with me, I would love you to communicate with me. So please do it, but you can do it through the blog or through the Ravelry group. Or you can add yourself to our Cognitive Listeners Map. There is a link in the show notes. Let's see what else we have. Oh, well, if you're looking for flash tips of 1 minute or less, or longer tips about just getting through the pandemic, or generally the things I tend to say to clients in therapy, you can look at my YouTube channel, which is creatively named Dr. Gemma, 2 words spelled out. There will not be a cognitive fiber retreat in 2021. That does not mean I'm ruling it out for 2022. And watch this space. You never know if that might change as we all get vaccinated, and we might need a little cognitive fiber retreat love. But right now, there are no plans. In the warm thanks department, I wanted to thank Knitwish for her beautiful post about her Hue Shift blanket. Knitwish bought the same yarns I bought from Knit Picks. And I bought them to make my temperature blanket. She bought them to make the actual project, the Hue Shift. And it's absolutely beautiful. And I didn't want to put the link in my show notes because I don't feel like I own it. But if you go over to Ravelry, that's Knitwish, you can go look at her account. And thank you to Y1X Mom for the wonderful book recommendations. You know, you're right. I think either I'm channeling you or you're channeling me because we have so many of the same series. But thank you because you added some to my list. And I'm very eager to look them up now that you have helped me find them. And Turbo Gal, thank you for the thumbs up on the discussion about criminalizing mental health that I put in episode 20. Because yes, I'm going to say it one more time for clarity. People who shoot other people are antisocial. It's not coming from autism. It's not coming from addiction. It's coming from antisocial. Speaking as a sugar addict who is reformed, I don't have the urge to kill people. There are many people who are addicted to many things in this world. Saying that you are a sex addict does not mean you have any excuse whatsoever for harming people. Let's just call racism and anti-Asian racism exactly what they are, shall we? And if you're a cop and you give this guy an excuse by saying, well, he was fed up, maybe we want to investigate you two a little bit. What do you think? What's on my hooks and needles? Well, I finished the slash dot cowl, which I had begun last week. You may remember this. It's a linen stitch pattern, but it's done in bulky weight yarn. And the fun of it, of course, was I used a leftover bulky weight wool of the Andes from Knit Picks in the colorway Aurora Heather, which is green, basically. And then I had a leftover, and then I had a leftover skein of Malabrigo Rios in the colorway Anniversario. And it came out dark, and it's incredibly beautiful in real time, but getting a picture of it is a challenge. To get the colors to show up, I have to pretty much overexpose my pink little face. But it's a gorgeous thing, and I highly recommend it as a project if you have 2 stray skeins that you'd like to use up. Of course, the Rios is a lighter weight than the bulky wool of the Andes. The Rios is only a worsted weight. I gotta slow down and focus on this. So I did take my Rios, and first I took the skein and put it on a skein winder and hooked it up to my ball winder. And so from the skein I created a ball, a center pull ball. And then I took the center of that and the outer edge of it, held them together and put them in my ball winder while I carefully maneuvered the ball I had just made on the floor. And I did this so that I could wind it as a center pull ball, but this time the center was the 2 loose ends of the previous ball, which means that when it finally wound into a ball, the outer edge was the loop where you're at the midpoint of the original ball. So this gave me a doubled yarn on a ball that I could use. I hope that made sense. Meanwhile, Spectrum socks ain't getting no love. I'm heading towards the toe, but I'm just not focused on them because I have been focused on Twin Face's vest. I'm on the second skein. Twin Face seems to be about 4 inches less in circumference than I am. I'm getting a lot farther on 2 skeins, let me tell you. I'm almost up to the armpit just on the first 2 skeins. So that's going very well, which is nice since she hasn't sent me back the original attempt, which was 2 skeins, at the original width she told me. So when I get that back, I'll probably finish this. But it's looking very good. It's coming out. She, I think, is about 36 inches. It's coming out like 34 to 35 inches, which is going to give us some very nice negative ease on this. Meanwhile, you remember the wild lettuce shawl? I remember it too, but I haven't given it much love. I was keeping up on it really well, doing 1 repeat of the knitted on lace edging, which, how many rows is the knitted on lace? I think it's 12 rows, but it's very easy. It's 25 stitches wide. It's really simple to do. It's a really nice pattern, very easy to memorize, cooks along great, and I have not touched it in about 5 days, which is annoying me because there's a lot of repeats of this little bitty pattern going along that wonderful outer edge of the live stitches of the main shawl. And I'd like to get back to it because I'd like it, because I'm beginning to realize that in warm weather I want to wear lighter, lacier shawls around my neck because they look good on Zoom when I'm working. What can I tell you? The temperature blanket, I was catching up on it today. I think I'm about 5 days behind because last week, well, you'll hear why, I didn't get much done in terms of knitting or crocheting because during the week it was such a stressful week. And on the weekend, my husband decided to rescue me, and we'll get to that in the blather. What am I currently wearing? Well, if you look in the show notes, you'll see that I'm wearing my cowls because we're getting into warm weather. It's been in the 60s and 70s here, so it's too warm to wear my sweaters. So I have been wearing my beautiful hand-knitted cowls. And I really love cowls because, as I have said over and over, they are a great use for your hand-spun yarn. I really hate the fact that hand spinners like myself, we make a lot of beautiful yarns and then we let them sit in a bin because we can't figure out what to do with them unless, like some of us, we are spinning up like 4 pounds to make a sweater. However, I'm not doing that. I've never had the urge. I've considered it. I've talked myself into it and talked myself out of it. But I'm not at that place where I want to buy a fleece and do that kind of thing, or half a fleece. So right now, I'm really happy making cowls. And this week, what I wanted to give you was both my knitted and crocheted specialties. My favorite knitted cowl, that's a good 1 skein cowl, is the Knitted Bandana Cowl by Pearl Soho. It's just called the Bandana Cowl in Ravelry. And she originally does it in a bulky. I have messed with it quite a lot. I've made it probably in everything except lace weight at this point, that I just adjust the numbers, do a little math, and get what I want. So you can see me wearing, in the first picture, a rather old one made from a skein of hand-spun yarn. And I cannot for the life of me even remember what yarn that is. But if you go into my Ravelry notes, you can certainly find it. But I'm wearing one. And this is just, it looks like a triangular bandana, except instead of having the ends tied behind your neck, you knit it as a circle. So you start at the point, you do some short rows, and then you finish with the full circle around your neck. And it stays on beautifully, but it looks like a bandana. And I also have my favorite, the Calm Cow, which I crochet. These are both so good for hand spun. The Calm Cow originally, I think, might have been in sport weight. But again, I've messed with this one so many times, and I crank these out like there's no tomorrow because it takes a weekend to get this huge double twist cowl. And I just love them. And if you have clown vomit type colorways, let me tell you, the crocheted Calm Cow was made for you. Finally, socks. I am wearing yarn from Stay Classy Yarns, who I haven't seen in a while, but hey, pandemic. And the colorway is Médecins Sans Frontières, which is Doctors Without Borders. It was a charity colorway. And I've got a heel in there in an orange that actually is a Madeline Tosh single, something I hate. I never knit in singles, but I had this leftover skein of it and said, oh, what the heck, and did the heel in it. And surprisingly, it's held up quite well. These are quite aged socks. So you can see me wearing that sock with my clog half kicked off. Dizzy Blondes, oh, we have excitement. No spinning action, but I got a pound of churro roving hand-delivered from a local breeder. And I've never spun churro. This lady breeds them. They are a native Navajo breed, so I'm very interested. She had it pin drafted by Morro Bay yarn. Morro Bay. The ones that the knitmores use. Anyway, I'll tell you more about that when I open it. I'm keeping it locked up tight in its box to be moth-proofed until my electric eel wheel arrives. This is the full-size eel wheel 6.0, the newest version that was a Kickstarter project in February of 2020. And it's coming at last. It is in the mail. I am so excited. Thank you, Maurice. So there will be more on that when the wheel arrives. I will also give you the information on our local churro breeder, particularly if I like the fiber, because we want to give her business. By the way, her prices were incredibly reasonable. I think she charged me about $2.25 per ounce, which is very reasonable compared to the average price. Okay, on to a strategy. Remember, we're doing tools to help you get by when you are distressed. And we're using the acronym IMPROVE, as in improve the moment when you can't escape from a situation. We're on to the R, and the R stands for relax. And all of you who've been sitting around saying, when is Dr. Gemma going to tell us about breathing again? This is when. So your parents are lecturing you, your spouse is on a rant, your boss is chewing you out, or even just reviewing you for your annual review. This is where the R comes in, relax. Fastest way to relax. Stress, biochemically, all emotions are based in the body. They have biochemistry. If you change the biochemistry, you can't feel the emotion. It's just that simple. Why did you think morphine works? If you're in pain, you have morphine. You know you're in pain, you just don't care. You can feel the pain and you'll giggle. Well, that's what this is like. If you are anxious, you have too much carbon dioxide in your blood. So how do you handle it? You inhale. You give yourself oxygen, exhale carbon dioxide. Bonus points if you remember army breathing. Inhale on 4, hold for 5, exhale on 8. Because now you're not just using oxygen, now you're using your nervous system. The inhale stimulates you. It activates your sympathetic nervous system. Since you inhale fast, on a count of 4, you're going to hold your breath for 5 seconds because you want to make sure the oxygen gets into your blood. Because then you're going to exhale on a count of 8. And the exhale will activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down. Important question. Everybody says 4, 5, 8. 4 seconds, 4 minutes. Listen, doesn't matter. 4 half seconds, doesn't matter. What matters is the proportion. You want to inhale half as long as the time you use to exhale. So rapid inhale, hold your breath, purse your lips, and blow out slowly. That is the way you relax, by changing your carbon dioxide levels in your blood to calm stress, and also by using your nervous system to help you calm down. Army breath also works for sleep at night, just saying, for when we get to sleep hygiene. Okay, That is R for relax, but you can do other things. You can consciously drop your shoulders. If you think about it, when you're anxious, most people hunch up their shoulders. Force your shoulders down and back. If you know yoga, this is a good moment to do a mountain pose. What the interesting thing is here, if you do that in front of someone else, if you take a deep, slow breath and exhale it quietly, because if you go, the other person will hate you. But if you do a deep, slow breath and exhale quietly and drop your shoulders, almost every other mammal will do it back at you. We all respond to this at a very fundamental level. So you can try to drop your shoulders. You can look at the person and breathe slowly and softly, and you can drop your shoulders and try muscle by muscle to let your body relax into a comfortable mountain pose. Standing up straight, in other words, but relaxed with your knees not locked. So in the moment, you can just try to relax yourself, to breathe, to calm yourself, to focus on slowing your heartbeat. Yes, if you think about slowing your heartbeat, it'll slow. Human bodies, they're really amazing. So that is the R for relax. Put a lid on it. Oh, baby, oh, baby. So we're experimenting with the Ramertoff. And my husband has had all sorts of interesting experiences with it. Well, let me tell you. Last week, he hit a home run right out of the park. He's been fooling around with homemade ranchero sauce, which can be quite spicy. And I'm not a big spicy fan, so you should take it seriously when I tell you this is to die for. I put the recipe from chilipeppermadness.com. I put the whole recipe in image form into the show notes, so go get it there. This stuff is insanely good. What he did, he made up a batch of it, and then he just used it in the Ramertoff on a pork shoulder as the marinade. Oh my gosh. So we ended up getting pulled pork. It was melt in your mouth delicious. It was spicy. I'm not big on spicy. I loved it. The ranchero sauce takes about 5 minutes to make. You just got to make sure you assemble all the ingredients. A lot of different types of peppers. You can experiment with your own favorite peppers and then cook the pork shoulder in the clay cooker as you would cook any big chunk of pork in a clay cooker. So soak the cooker, both sides, for at least half an hour. Soak the insides, I mean. And then you're going to use the standard recipe time. But the ranchero sauce, oh la la. Now today he did something different. He just threw in oregano and a ton of minced garlic. And what else did he put in there? A little bit of pepper, but very light. I really couldn't taste it. And I had bought at Trader Joe's a garlic marinated pork loin. And so he just added a ton of extra garlic and oregano. Oh my gosh. Oh, you haven't lived till you've had pork and a Ramertoff. I'm just saying. And then there was shoot. Well, I was trying to work on my 30 minutes a day. And I was tense as a strung Olympic bow. That is Olympic archery. By the time last week ended. And my husband simply announced that I was taking the weekend off because I am still a week out as I record this. I'm about 8 days out. And I'm recording this at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, March 31st. Because I was so busy over the weekend and my recording stunk. But anyway, my husband announced that I was taking the weekend off. And then he put our bikes in the back of his car, loaded me and the beloved son into the car, and we drove out to Ojai. And there's a wonderful rails to trail road out in Ojai, the Ojai Trail, which turns into the Ventura River Trail. And we usually ride at about 16 miles from mid-Ojai to the end in a parking lot in Ventura. You can take it out to the ocean. But anyway, I haven't done that yet. I've only gone out to the parking lot end of it. So my husband said, "You're going to do that." And I said, "I don't know if I have the energy. I'm really out of shape." 10 miles later, I found out what I did have. It was great. He dropped us in mid-Ojai on Fox Lane, if you're in Ojai. We picked up the trail there. We biked westward out of Ojai. It's about 3 miles, and there's ups and downs, but nothing steep. And then it's downhill for like another 6 miles till you get to a place called Foster Park, where you do another 6 miles, and there's some little bits of uphill and downhill. And we decided we were really going to have fun with this. And I was really worried I didn't have the stamina. So we started in Ojai, and I said, well, we'll meet at the Starbucks, which is, about a mile out of town, about 3 miles, 4 miles into this. They moved the Starbucks. Fortunately, my husband messaged me. I was wearing my trusty Trex titanium hands-free Bluetooth earphones, so I was able to talk to him as I rode, and he said, remember the old Taco Bell? I said, yeah. He said they sold it to Starbucks. So this Starbucks had moved about a quarter mile closer to us, a quarter mile closer to the town of Ojai. So anyway, we met him at that Starbucks, which now has a drive-through. This was so wonderful. We just sat outside, and we talked about how wonderful it was to sit outside without our masks, because nobody was around us at that time, feeling normal. And we had to wear our masks in the Starbucks, of course. My husband's had 1 shot. I've had 2. Son has had none. But we're very excited because now it sounds like Pfizer is going to release the younger teenagers' version of their shot, which it sounds like it's going to be ages 12 to 18. So we're hoping my husband will have his second shot April 23rd, and we're hoping our son will get his shot in there somewhere. And it sounds like it's going to be a 1-shot deal. I will let you know as I hear more about this. 1 shot for the kids. So this is very exciting. So we sat there drinking our iced tea and talking about this. And then we got back on our bikes while the husband rode his car down the highway on the other side of the woodland. And we rode down the 9 miles to Foster Park. And I was done at that point. It was about 6 p.m. and I was pretty tired. And I said, okay, that's enough, So we put the bikes on the back of the car and we piled down to Ventura. And we had dinner at Blaze Pizza. Remember the people with the keto crust? Yes. So it was really kind of nice because I thought I could have made that last 6 miles actually. But I really felt like I wanted to spend the sunny evening hour in the pizza place. So we did. But that was our ride down the Ojai Trail. And so you're thinking, well, that was pretty good, Gems, for someone who's that out of shape. Yeah, well. And then I ran. And I'll come back to that in the blather. Meanwhile, in the fluffy books department, have I got a goodie for you. I started reading the book called Zen in the Art of Writing. I can't get a good link for it from Amazon for some reason, which is really bugging me. But anyway, Zen in the Art of Writing. Zen in, not Zen and. Zen in the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury. One of my all-time favorite science fiction authors, and a guy who actually kissed me one time. Stranger things, I tell you. And Zen in the Art of Writing is everything you love about Ray Bradbury if you're a fan. It is lively, enthusiastic, as he would put it, full of zest and gusto. It's a series of essays he wrote over several years about what writing is. It's very much in keeping with a talk I once heard him give, after which he kissed me. Did I mention that? And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. The essays are lively, intelligent, full of joy and happiness, full of immense life, which so was he for that matter, and very much in the spirit of his times. So far, he's kind of sexist, but racism, not yet, not so far. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But each essay is like a little jewel, and I can't explain the enthusiasm in the essays. Just made me feel wonderful. If you are creative, whether you knit, dye, design, crochet, lay floors, carve wood, or write stories, you want to read this. I am not as far into it so that I feel safe saying there's not going to be anything offensive in it. This is a white guy writing primarily in the 50s through 70s. So, take this with a grain of salt, but he is a man of his time, but he is also one of the few writers who was successful through his entire career. He's frequently anthologized. His stories are just beautiful. He considered himself primarily a short story writer, although he did write some novels. And anybody who's interested in creativity, you really want to have a look at this, is what I'm going to say. And the joy that suffuses the pages makes it worthwhile. Something I really like, back to the pizza, keto pizza crust at Blaze Pizza. I believe Blaze is now in several states, mostly through the West, but they do a keto crust. Would you eat it every day? No. It's still, if you're diabetic like I am, it's a lot of carbs. But, it's great to have pizza. I'm hitting my 3rd year anniversary with my diabetes diagnosis, I still remain 65 pounds less than when I was diagnosed with no effort because I'm eating keto. And this means the world to me. I hadn't had a pizza in 3 years. I've had the toppings off a pizza, but couldn't eat the crust. This was like paradise. It's very thin. That's how they do it. They have extremely thin crust, and they layer stuff on it. I had their barbecue chicken. Don't do that. The barbecue sauce was plainly sugary. However, 2 tablespoons, I'll live with it. But I won't be doing it again. It wasn't that exciting. I wish I'd brought along my keto barbecue sauce and handed it to them, I'm just saying. But they have a lot of other good options, including a lot of marinara options. And you can take the sauce off it completely if you're worried about that. It was delicious. Next time, I can't wait to go back and try their crust. I forget what they call it, but it's basically got baby mozzarella. Happy Passover, did I say that? It's got baby mozzarella and basil and fresh tomato. So, ooh la la. This is Blaze Pizza, their keto pizza crust. So as I mentioned, on to the blather. As I mentioned, it was a really awful week last week. This week now, as I record this, I'm about a third of the way through it. This week's been much better. But, well, I'm not going to go into what a bad week is when you're a psychologist. Just have faith, okay? But I'm glad it's over. So I was tense as a strung bow. And I started looking at my vacation, which runs, from I think the days off are the 13th through the 19th. I think so. It's like the 11th through the 19th, something like that. That sounds right. And I'm looking at all my options, but I noticed, sheer by dumb luck, a thing called Rim of the World Highway appeared on my Instagram, and I looked it up. And it's this 101-mile highway that runs around the San Bernardino forest north of the town of San Bernardino, happily. And it runs around, I think it's called Silverwood Lake, Arrowhead Lake, and Big Bear Lake. And I thought, I've always wanted to go up there. I've never gone up. There's some nice trailheads. And then it occurred to me, if I go on a weekday, it'll probably be pretty cheap. So I'm thinking I may go up to the Rim of the World Highway and just spend 2 or 3 days up there, walking around, looking at the lake, hanging out, maybe doing some writing and doing some creative stuff, and of course some knitting on a porch on an Adirondack chair if I have anything to say about it. And all the hotels have fireplaces in the rooms. Did I mention that? And I'm thinking about it seriously and just eating at the local grills because, meat, keto, I can do it. And just taking like 2 days up there because I live so close to it. I've driven up the road and stopped short at Cajon Pass, which, by the way, has an interesting railroad bridge conundrum where you can see sort of 3 trains loop around themselves, apparently, as they go across it. I've never seen that. I've always been on the highway, I think, sort of beneath it. But anyway, I was thinking I might go look at Cajon Pass, and then you follow that road, and it takes you out to the lakes and eventually to Rim of the World Highway. So I'm thinking I may go out there and just see what I've always wanted to see. And then I ran. Well, let me tell you. So there I was, exhausted from the bike ride, went to bed, woke up the next morning. It was 70 degrees. I can't explain what came over me, but it was beautiful. I put on my new running shoes from Roadrunner Sports with their fitted custom insoles made right in the shop. And I threw on my clothes, and you can look at my show notes and see what a 60-year-old woman looks like in running clothes. I'm pretty pleased with it, to be honest. I used day 1 of the Couch to 5K program. There's about 15 of these, seriously, if you go to the App Store on your phone. And what this does is you tell it which of your playlists on your phone you want to play, and then it coaches you. So it just says, warm up now. And you walk for 5 minutes, and then it says, and your music plays after the voice says warm up now. You get to pick the voice. And then after 5 minutes, you hear a voice say, stretch now. And they do just a very brief stretch, maybe a minute. So I did that. I did some mountain pose and just some dancing stretches, I know. And then it says, run now. And the first day, I'm not lying, I think it's run 30 seconds, walk 90 seconds. And you do that for half an hour, and it tells you, run now, walk now, run now. And then it says cool down. And then it says stretch. And then you're done. It felt wonderful. I managed to do 1.5 miles, so I'm pretty pleased about it. I felt great. I was amused because I had saddle sores. This was Monday. I had saddle sores from the bike ride on Sunday. Not after the run, I didn't. However, on Tuesday, yeah, you know it, my quadriceps on my thighs, the front of my thighs, kind of sore. But, it was a great experience. So all I can tell you is I'm back to running. I'm on the Couch to 5K program. I think my goal is not to actually do 5Ks. If I can, that would be great once everything opens up again. But I have a lot of medals and a lot of running shirts. In fact, I've got like 3 racing quilts now, t-shirt quilts made from my running shirts. I think my goal is really to get to a consistent 1 mile run every day, because I was doing that for a while, and then on weekends I'd go out for 3 to 5 miles, and it felt really wonderful. It's not high mileage. You're talking about, if you take a day off, you're probably talking about what, 5 to 10 miles a week. It's not a big deal, but it would be a nice way to just keep conditioned. Finally, Minerva's lizard. Please go look at the show notes for the picture of Minerva, who walked into my study the other day and suddenly started bonking herself headfirst into the window. And I looked up, there was a lizard hanging upside down on the screen outside the window. Minerva knows this. She understands the window. She could not stand that the lizard was completely undisturbed by her attacks. You can see 4 of the 8 pictures I took there, where the lizard never moves in any of them. He simply doesn't care. And she's banging the glass and banging it with her head and trying to bite it and throwing her paws against it. So Minerva gets the last word. Actually, the lizard gets the last word because Minerva just could not grasp that she was not going to get that lizard no matter what she did. So there you are. So this week has been going better, and I'm kind of staying out of the news right now. Yeah. Pandemic for a year. We had a chance to reset, a chance to reconsider. And the minute the pandemic's over, a bunch of racist morons are shooting people. Okay. So I'm staying away from the news, but things have been pretty good here around the farm, and we're getting into lovely weather. It's getting into the 60s and 70s very routinely. We are having windstorms. Thank you, climate change, because it wasn't like this when we moved here. And the windstorms have been interfering with my running. But on the days I take off, I can always do yoga and stretch. There's lots of good routines online on YouTube. Maybe I'll start recommending those. But it feels really wonderful to be out, to have running season, and to be able to go out and enjoy myself as long as the wind is not too ferocious. So it's beautiful. I think maybe I'm getting over my 60 crisis at last, because I really was afraid. My doctor keeps saying, well, you can't run. If you're too old, you'll have a heart attack. And I'm sort of looking at her and going, well, first of all, she's like 40. So, come check back in when you're 20 years old or Lassie. My heart is perfectly healthy. There is no damage. I have great blood pressure. I have diabetes. I think I should run. And I'm going to. And you know what? After all that, took one good bike ride, and then I ran. And I can't wait to ride again this weekend and go running. And on those happy notes, everybody, please remember we are still in a pandemic. Please get your vaccine. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Socially distance. Enjoy the slow return of some normality. And most of all, stay safe. Take care of each other. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.